Hmm. It all.
Hi.
My apology. And of course, now I have to figure out how to do this on my iPad instead of my computer.
You want to make me a co-host?
I would love to make you a co-host. How do I do that?
Figure
You
out
might also want to stop the recording until we're ready.
Well,
Right.
maybe a co-host can do that because I can't figure out how to do it on my iPad. Oh, hold it, maybe up here. Hi, this is Monday, March 30th, a meeting of the Capital Subcommittee of the Advisory Committee, here to review the budgets for the Recreation Department and the golf course. And let's see, who is going to go first? I'm assuming Recreation and Tim?
I'd love to.
Like, okay. Again, my apologies. I can't figure out how to see everyone.
That's okay.
That's okay. So I'll run the meeting, Lisa.
That would be great.
I mean, Carol, I see your name is.
I'll fix it.
It's Lisa,
That's another thing. Oh my God.
going under an alias. So
Carol, and just so you know, Harry and Michael, and you and me are here, and Justin and Tim Davis, and that's all I see. Well,
okay,
maybe.
Thank
I
you.
can tell
Oh,
it.
there are more. Yes.
Let me do that.
I
So-
figured out how to see everyone. I can
Okay.
see everyone now.
All right.
Okay. Good. Good.
All right, why don't we begin? So just to give an overview of today, we're going to be doing the recreation budget, leisure services, that includes the golf course, and it includes the general fund for recreation, which is administration and other things, the golf course enterprise fund, and the recreation revolving fund. And we'll be, if appropriate, we'll be taking votes on those today. We'll also be hearing about the CIP projects, but we probably will not be taking a vote on those today. So, Tim, do you have something that you want to share?
Sure. Yeah. Can I just get screen sharing privileges if you don't mind?
Let me see how to do it. Share.
And while we're working on that, I just want to introduce the team who's on with me today, who are here to answer any questions and also present a little bit. So again, my name is Tim Davis, Director of Recreation for the town of Brookline. I'm joined by Justin Lawson, our General Manager of the golf course, Aaron Friedman, who's our Assistant Director of Recreation, and Jerry Kelly, who is our Business Manager here for the department.
Okay, you should be a co-host now, so you should be able to show.
Sure can. Could everybody see that?
Yes.
Excellent. So what I wanted to do is just gonna go off of the agenda that was provided. So as mentioned, we'll start with the operating budget of the town. We'll go through capital items that have been completed since last time we chatted last year, ones that are in progress and ones that are upcoming on this year's budget. We will go through revolving as well, as always, what we have to look forward to this coming year. And then I'll hand it over to Justin and he can run through the golf course. So just to start operating, as we know, operating budget when it comes to the recreation department is relatively small compared to everything else that we do. As directed this year, two things going on with operating. One, just level funded. So outside of the standard increases to full-time salaries, as well as the standard increases to utilities, as directed by the other departments in town, buildings and whatnot, level funded. The one thing that we are seeing of a decrease when it comes to the operating budget is that one of the full-time individuals that were supported in the operating budget in the general fund, which is our rec therapist, is being moved from general to the revolving account. So revolving will be picking up another full-timer as well as benefits that go with that individual. So proposed just for the operating budget this coming year for FY27, just over 1.2 million. Keeping it on with operating, going into those capital. Again, I wanted to highlight some of the projects that we talked about last year that are coming to a close or have closed, and then ones that we're looking forward to. First one being the Sewell Courtyard. The Recreation Department operates the Sewell Early Education Center over on Hammond Street. Classrooms full of toddlers and teachers over there doing great work. Attached to the facility is our courtyard out back, which is the main hub of outdoor activity, outdoor education for that team over at Sewell. You'll see on the left is the before, and then you'll see on the right is the after. So that project has been completed, all but some plantings that we were waiting for the spring, so we get some good growth. But that project came in at $387,000. The CIP funded $150,000 of that. So obviously the price was higher than what was anticipated, which I think we knew going into it. But I'm happy to report that with the help of Sewell and the staff and Brittany and her staff over there, we were able to secure a grant from the Department of Early Education that allowed us to cover the remaining costs. So no additional costs to the town on that. And we have just a tremendous facility over at Sewell that is put into great use on a daily basis. Next is the Aquatic Center, probably our most public project that we had last year in partnership with the building department. We replaced the dehumidification system of the facility on the roof that caused us to have a closure starting last November, so November 25, and then we successfully reopened on time for the first week of January of this year. Again, full replacement of the roof unit, but the closure also allowed us to do various upgrades in the building, everything from paint to updating the flooring, the lighting fixtures, locker room upgrades, from fixing the lockers itself, ceiling tiles, hooks, curtains, benches, pretty much soup to nuts, anything that we had time and we could get done within the facility as that replacement was going on, we were able to. As well as technology upgrades, probably the one thing that you'll see as soon as you walk in to the facility itself. But again, another very successful project, very proud of it. A huge thank you to the building department with Charlie and everybody over there, the huge team. It was really a team effort with that one. So we are open, is operating, everything is functioning as expected, which is wonderful. And the pool's never been busier. And speaking of pools, the outdoor pool, the RFP that we've been talking about for a while, that is in progress. We're on our second draft right now of that RFP. We're a little behind, admittedly. I was hopeful to have it done this month, but the goal is it to be live next month. Probably the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think we'll have a draft that can go on the streets. So our goal is to have a contract secured for whatever the RFP is going to look like prior to town meeting, and happy to report back once that is done. So we're excited to get that one going. Capital that is in progress right now. Last fiscal year, we were granted funds, $800,000 to renovate the offices at the Elliott Recreation Center. Elliott is on Elliott Street. This is our main office for our administration staff. We have 12 full-timers here at Elliott. It's been over 20 years since the building's been refreshed on the interior. So we are currently working on that project. Our goal is most likely a build of this calendar year. We are in just the final stages of signing a contract to get that going. But what that would look like is really upgrades to our entire floor where our admin staff are. So upgraded conference room, furniture, technology refresh up here, paint, carpets, lighting, kind of full amenities, top to bottom of it. But the center is also home to one of our largest classrooms that we do programming at. So we'll be looking to update that lower level classroom, make sure that it is looking the best it can to welcome in all the program participants that we see year to year. And then the one project that is on the CIP for this coming town meeting is another pool project. So we dealt with everything on the roof. Now we're moving to the basement, and it's the filtration replacement. So our filtration system was deemed end of life back in a study in 2024. So this project is to replace that. Currently, the pool operates on 2 systems. One of the filtration systems operating 2 of the pools, and another one operating the other. In reality, each pool should have its own filtration system, so that's what this project is looking to do. and what was cited when we did the consultant work, looking at our current system and replacing it, is that because of the way it's operating and because the way it's set up in the basement, there's code infringements and violations that we're dealing with, just because of the space and how the water is being filtered. We have over 200,000 gallons of water in that facility, so we want to ensure that it's being cleaned and taken care of properly. But that is estimated at a $3.2 million price with that project. And then Fisher Hill West, I saw was on the agenda, so I just wanted to mention it. Really, everything with Fisher Hill is in the hands of the planning department right now, but we are at the table for it. We've been in many meetings about it. We are advocating for the use of that site for a multi-generational recreational use. So again, working hand in hand with the planning department, keeping our eye on it, trying to keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on in that building. And again, staying at the table to make sure we are there for those conversations. So I can't speak to the exact use of what it's going to be, but I can say that we are in the conversations, Aaron and myself specifically, making sure recreation is being taken into account when it comes to that building. And then one of the facilities to highlight being the ice rink, as always. We're just coming off the end of our season. This past winter season ended in early March. It was a very successful season. We saw over 8,000 daily uses over the course of those 3 months, which was great. Over 600 hours of public and private rentals. So that's everyone, again, from the public who wanted to rent it for a birthday party, a family gathering, or just a private event for themselves, or those public rentals, so Brookline Youth Hockey, different schools, different leagues that need ice time, renting from us to be able to fulfill their needs. We did have a rough winter, as we know. So during those two significant blizzards, we were closed for extended periods of time at the start of the season. We were closed because of some rain as well as some warmer weather. So over the course of those 3 months, we did see 20 full or partial closures of the rink, which ultimately obviously impact our bottom line on it. However, this past year, we did implement price increases for our daily uses. We did implement season passes as well for our users to take advantage of. So our anticipated loss, this isn't a final number. We're still closing out the season, still working with Public Works and Parks and Open Space to get the proper numbers of staffing and the costs associated with the rink. But we're anticipating a loss of about $50,000 this year. But again, that will be more firmed up probably in the next 1 to 2 weeks, and I'm happy to report back on a more solidified number when it comes to that. And then moving on to our revolving account, again, kind of the main account of our department, as we know, allows us the day-to-day business as well as full-time staffing to function the way we function, to have the flexibility we need to operate efficiently. And this year, the revolving account saw a major change. And that major change was the adoption and the merger of the Brookline Adult and Community Education Department. Just to refresh, last year, due to budget cuts on the school side, the public schools were going to cut Brookline Adult and Community Ed, also known as BASE, as we refer to. But instead of seeing that happen, Recreation raised their hand. And fast forward to late August, early September, we signed a MOA with the schools to allow the Recreation Department to take over the Adult and Community Ed Department. And what that looked like for us was, yes, a tremendous increase of programming, but it required us to bring on another full-time employee. So with the programming came another body. So we did hire one full-time employee from the schools who actually worked in that program to assist with that transition. So the revolving account is funding that now, as well as all the costs associated with that program suite. So it's still building. The launch of it was strategic, kind of keeping the core legacy programs afloat, and then building season over season. We have a full-time individual, again, as mentioned, Meredith Force, who is taking all of that on. Again, taking a 4-person operation, bringing it down to a 1-person operation, and also fitting it in the model of our department. And she is doing an absolutely brilliant job of it. So it's been really exciting to watch. And we're excited for the future with adult ed underneath us. And that's that. Yeah.
So thank you, Tim. What I'd like to do now
Sure.
is just take some questions
Okay.
from the committee first and then the public. And I wonder if maybe it would be good if I could see who's there.
Yep.
If you could just take the slideshow off, then I could see people raise their hand. So Carlos, you have a question, and then Harry.
Thank you, Michael. Tim, thanks for the presentation. Who, the renovation to Elliott, is that being done in-house within the building department, or did you hire early designer consultants?
Speaking with the building department right now, they don't have the capacity. So we do have a design contract on board, architect to look at the building. And then our plan is to go out to bid for the public work on it.
So you do have someone on board now?
For design purposes, yes.
Yes, and who's
Yes.
that?
I can get the name. Excuse me 1 second. I can look that up for you.
Thank you.
MKA Architecture, right here in Brookline.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, I knew his first name, just didn't know the name of his firm.
Okay, is that it, Carlos?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then Harry.
Thank you. Tim, I have two questions.
Sure.
The skating rink was open from the first week in December to the first week in March.
Mhm.
I know the world is changing. That seems like about a month short. Is it really that much shorter these days?
Yeah, historically, we've been able to open weekend after Thanksgiving, if not the weekend before, because of the climate of what we're seeing, we haven't been able to open early. It's been pushed later and later, unfortunately.
And same with the closing date?
Closing, we stayed open longer than last year because of the winter we were having. But even that last week was actually pretty difficult. It warmed up pretty quickly. So we pushed it as much as we can to get as much as we can.
And the incorporation of base.
Mhm.
I don't know the details, but at one time base had some kind of an endowment. Did base bring any money with it?
No, there was no financial brought over, no.
Charlie Young, do you know anything about that?
I'm so sorry, Harry. I was just looking away for a minute. Could you ask your question again?
Yeah, at what time the adult ed program at the schools had an endowment, had money. And apparently none of the money came over to the rec people. Do you have any idea what happened there?
That is a great question. I don't, and I will see if I have anything in my email that can shed some light on that, Harry. I'll do some research right.
Thank you so much. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you. Before I go on to other folks, I have a few questions myself. First, a comment. Charlie, I think it's to you, the comment, and I would say congratulations on a very readable financial plan. There's actually data in there that you can follow, and you can know how many people were using different, attending different sport events and partaking in the recreation activities, and the same with golf. And I think that's really a terrific difference from the year before. Also, the capital improvement plan is a lot easier to follow. So
Thank you, Michael. And a lot of credit to the data goes to the rec team.
thank you for that. Another question is, I remember when we had the review last year, there was the recognition that some of the scholarships that were given to some of the participants were, because of ARPA kind of weaning away, disappearing, that the town would to try to find other sources of income for scholarships. And I'm wondering, Tim, if you could talk about that.
Sure. So just like you said, ARPA funds were what we were mainly relying on when it came to the equity initiative, when it came to scholarships for the recreation department. As those went away, we maintained the program, and we took on those scholarships through our pricing structure in-house. We saw we had anticipated about 200 to 250,000 in scholarships that we would be requested. This past calendar year, so 2025 calendar year, that price was, just that context, that price was significantly higher. We saw over 350,000 of scholarships, which is great. You know, it's how the program is used, it's promoted. It's allowing us to make sure that everybody who needs recreation programs get them. But we are looking at our pricing to make sure that we are recovering, and then we're also working with our partners in town to try to get additional funds coming in. Most notably, in the next couple of weeks, Viking Sports, one of our biggest partners in town, is going to be running a fundraiser 5K to help with those scholarships. So we're looking at more unique ways of raising funds outside of just program costs and raising fees to get other channels of revenue to offset that requirement.
Thank you. Thank you. The other thing that's connected to that is you're following this cost recovery strategy. It has been, the department has been for many years. And this year in the book, you can actually see what the cost recovery was, is 87%. So I have a question on that. How does that compare to previous years? And what is the goal for the town for cost recovery? And for other people, could you just explain what cost recovery, that strategy is?
Yeah, Jerry, can I put you on the spot on this one, just because I know that's in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, so percentage wise, it's every year depending, you know, so this year where we're moving a position out of general into revolving, it'll go up a little bit, but generally it's right around in the 80%, in the mid 80s there. We usually kind of stay consistent with that amount there. So we kind of, the goal that we're at now is where we'd like to stay. The cost recovery model, generally just, we look at it and, you know, as a whole, we kind of evaluate all our programming and we decide where each program falls on a continuum, deciding the benefit in the community. And based on where we feel, if it's a community benefit for each person taking it, we determine the rate of the cost recovery each program should make. And from that, we determine what the fee should be that we charge for each program. So when you're looking at something like Brookline Day, that's a huge benefit for the community. So there's no charge for that. But then if you look on the flip end, a private swim lesson, that's really like more like an individual benefit. So we do have a higher fee on that. We make a profit on that to try to subsidize other programming along the way. And all our programs do fall on that model going up. And it just balances out the programs that make money versus the programs that don't.
Okay, thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, so great question, Michael. And the goal here with the cost recovery table that we put out there is complete transparency so that folks can understand when they're paying for rec programs, how much of that is going directly to the program, how much of that, you know, is maybe basically so that you can understand better how much the revolving fund relies on general fund support. And the number is actually up this year. I believe it's at 87%, and in the prior year it was at 82%. And that is because of the absorption of one position into the revolving fund as a result of the or as a result of the cuts we had to make to meet the deficit. And so I think over the years it has hovered in that 70 to 80% area. It's actually very high at 87% this year. I think from a budgeting perspective, it's a positive because it's showing that this program is largely is paying for itself and benefiting us. But I think the idea here is really just to make sure that folks understand and are, it's transparently shown how much the general fund is subsidizing the fund, which, for example, water enterprise, the general fund doesn't subsidize that, right? So this is the kind of program that's like sort of high benefit to the community. And so the general fund subsidy, I'm sorry, not 17%. This year it's lower than that. That was last year's number I just quoted. The general fund subsidy of 12.9% is just to show exactly how much the general fund pays for this, because that's not the case for the other business related funds.
Right. Thank you. I just have one final question, then I'll pass it on to Pam and then Tracy, who's waiting as well. And the question is about the pool plan, where that is. is that, I'm not sure where we are on that. What is the RFP going to be for? Is it going to be for a location or for facilities, or what will the RFP entail? And also, for many recreation projects, there's usually a design review committee that meets. And would this pool be in that bailiwick as well? Would there be a design review committee appointed for that?
Yeah, so the RFP is going to determine a location and then hopefully give us an estimate of costs based on those locations. Within that, it'll be the type of pool, if it's, you know, a pool with facilities or kind of the scope of what the facility would actually be. When we get to the point, if we get to the point of a build, then yes, 100% a design review committee would be put on this. So this is more the study piece of it. Again, location and cost, and then if approved at a future capital item, the design review would kick in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Pam.
Hi. Oh, okay. I had a question about the ice rink and the pool. The pool. One question had to do with the fact that you told us that you're attending all the meetings about the use of the Fisher Hill property. And I've heard this, but I don't know for certain that they've sent out a study. They've gotten a grant to study it, but it's a grant from a housing organization, something like that. And I'm wondering how we can make sure that the pool remains and other recreational uses remains a high priority when we have a study committee, a potential grant from housing. So that's a concern of mine, because I think it certainly is an expressed belief of the community that they want to have an outdoor swimming pool. So I don't know how we can be, how you can be proactive. I guess that's my question. More proactive.
Yeah, I think you just answered it. I think you need to be proactive with planning. Again, that's in planning department right there. We can only advocate for what it is, or for what we're looking at. So more voices being expressed, more thoughts on future use to that department, I think can be the most helpful.
Okay. And then in terms of the skating rink, I know it's been problematic to keep it going with Band-Aids for the last several years for sure. What is I know that Mary Ann Thompson has been, I think, hired or almost signed a contract.
Yep.
She's awesome, by the way. I've worked with her. So I was really excited to hear that she got selected, because I think she'll be very creative about how to handle it. But how long, let's say she comes up with a good plan. How long would it, what timeline are we looking at in terms of this Band-Aid to keep the current system going?
If we're talking Band-Aids, and by Band-Aids, temporary chillers.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm just being a little sarcastic, but.
Yeah, no, interchangeable, absolutely. Probably no more than 2 more seasons is what I would think. It's all going to depend on the public process of how long that takes with that design review, and seeing what the timeline is of that. It's our goal to be back to town meeting for the spring 27 town meeting with a plan in place for funding. But again, a lot can happen between now and then. As you mentioned, we're still negotiating, still trying to get that contract done with Mary Ann, and then getting that train going forward. So ideal goal will be at town meeting next year, asking for capital approval and, presenting the plan for the future. But we will see what happens with that.
And does this seems pretty like a pretty shortened time frame, actually. How much more community involvement have you built into the role that she's going to play?
It's going to be a full design review process with public meetings, both with building as well as Park and Rec, as well as the actual design review committee. So there will be ample public opportunity to be involved in that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the questions.
Thank you. Carlos, you still have your hand up. Do you have another question?
I did have a question, but Tracy can go.
Thank you. Tracy?
Oh, okay. I was definitely going to say Carlos was ahead of me, but all right. Thank you, Carlos. So I'm gonna ask this question, and Tim, there's no judgment here. I just wanted I'm just pointing this out there is if the RFP hasn't gone out yet for the outdoor pool, isn't it rushing the bidders to have chosen a contract by town meeting? Like, if we want a really good bidding process, shouldn't it be longer? I don't know RFP time length, so I'm a little naive here, but I also like really want a good bidding process.
Yeah, it's a perfect question. It comes down, so that gives me us 2 months, arguably. It's priority on my desk right now, so that's why I'm hopeful that it's going to be complete.
Doesn't it give us 1 month? Because April town meeting is May.
End of May. So.
Oh.
Well, but yeah, so by town meeting, we should have one or be close to one is my goal. And I agree with you. We want the most time. So we will go by public bidding laws of how long we need to have it out. And then, ideally the interviews will be able to bring everybody in, but it comes down to schedule. So I'm going to be purposely aggressive on it because it's been sitting a little too long. But we'll do the best by it. I can promise you that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, that was my point clearly is don't be so aggressive. Like,
Yeah.
so, okay. Okay. Thank you.
I got you, Tracy.
Okay.
Carlos?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on that RFP. So the RFP you mentioned they would choose a couple sites and then do an analysis of the layout. Is that what you were saying?
That's the goal. Yes.
Okay. And how are they choosing those sites?
So we'll have 2 that we're most likely going to identify. And then this is the part that we still have to determine. We'll be asking them to identify at least 1 to 2 others as well. And we'll put parameters in it. We're still working on that piece of it.
Okay. It's an interesting process because what I don't want is people to sort of get false hopes of that, just because those sites have been chosen that they're available. And by that, I mean, it's similar to Pam's question. The House and Choice grant is what's funding the consultant that's going to go through the process to choose, to finalize a use for Fisher Hill. But none of the uses have been chosen and they all have the same priorities at this point. So it's an interesting situation because between this and the town administrator's proposal, some people might jump conclusions of what will happen at Fisher Hill. And it really hasn't gone through any of the process right now. So I'm just being cautious there with expectations, I think.
Okay. Is that it, Carlos?
Yes. I think I had another question, but I think I can ask it later. Thank you.
Okay. Pamela, and then.
Okay, Tracy mentioned pool, but Tracy, did you mean ice rink?
No, I meant outdoor swimming pool.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's different. See, I think I thought we were talking about Mary Ann Thompson and the outdoor ice rink.
That's what we were talking about to your
But when she asked about the pool, I think you answered as if it was, I don't know.
No, I was referring to in Tim's PowerPoint in the very beginning, the slide that says outdoor pool RFP in progress.
2 different projects. So the ice rink where we're at now, we put out a proposal for bid, and we got Mary Ann Thompson back for the outdoor ice rink. So she's assigned to that. Subsequently, or concurrently, we're also working on an RFP for a feasibility study for an outdoor pool. So that's what Tracy was referring to.
On the other hand, we wouldn't be getting bids necessarily for it because that is seemingly, to me, is going to take a much longer process. If the Fisher Hill site is part of the potential locations, we aren't going to get it's going to be a conflict in the movement about what they want to do with it, but getting a proposal for where the heck it's going to be. So how can those work together or align?
So, and Michael, stop us if we're getting too in the weeds on this one, but Fisher Hill is being identified as a town-owned parcel of land, so that's why it's going to be considered, not so much as a pure future use of the entire site, because that's with planning and that entire committee looking at that. We're looking at parcels of land that are available to us and the answer would be if this came up and if it was given over to recreation or determined to be best use, we'd have a price or a proposal kind of in hand that we can investigate. So we're utilizing the idea of looking at town-owned parcels for this RFP, and Fisher Hill being one of them.
But the price that you'd be getting just for the RFP?
So the RFP, the prices that we would be getting would be potential construction costs, estimates of construction costs.
Based on a specific location or for
Correct.
various locations?
Various locations, but most likely, again, Fisher Hill being one of those locations being looked at.
And see, that's what I think is for me a conflict, because it's going to be a few years until we get the Fisher Hill resolved. I don't know. So maybe you'll have a price if you were to do it at Fisher Hill. You'd have but that may not, it may be wasting the money if we are never going to do it in Fisher Hill. I mean, I hope we would consider it, but I don't know. And I don't know how the advisory committee should comment on that part of your report. That's all.
Thank
Michael,
you.
if I may say one more thing about that. So that was, Pam, that was sort of part of my comment. And now that Tim has sort of refined a little bit the scope, the other issue I have is if they were to do a recreational center with a pool, the cost of doing that would be different than a standalone pool, because there would be some synergies between the recreation facilities and the pool facilities. So I guess when they're looking at that site, there needs to be a couple options for that site where it says, if this was a standalone, this is the program and the cost. If this is part of another recreation center, this is the additional program and cost that would be required. Take into consideration whatever gets built for recreation, in addition to what gets built for recreation. So it's a little bit different from the other sites where I can see the pool as being a standalone project. I just don't see at Fisher Hill, I don't see the pool right now as a standalone project, even with the existing facility. But again, that has to go through the RFP process or the feasibility process.
So Carlos, I'd like to, and others, I'd like to make a recommendation because we do have a lot of things to cover today. And Tim has offered to come back and update us on the RFP, and that would be terrific if we could do that as soon as you couldn't share it with us. I think that would be good.
Great.
Okay, Harry.
Charlie, I think this is going to be directed towards you. There are 3 budgets here, and on the utilities, it's kind of, when we did the DPW budget, the electricity was way down, or the electricity was up and the natural gas was down. And when I look at these budgets on the sort of basic budget, the electricity is up a little and the natural gas is way up. On the golf course, the electricity is up and the natural gas is way up. And then on the final one, it's a little bit different. It's electricity is up a lot and natural gas isn't up as much. Are these 3 budgets all buying electricity and gas from the same program that the rest of the town uses?
Yes, they are. So there's a twofold issue happening here with natural gas. So first of all, electricity is going up just by the negotiated supply rate that I have discussed at other meetings. And so it's relatively predictable across the three. I think it's actually, it's 10% for a general fund, which has, lower usage. So it has that price increase has a lower impact. It's 17% for golf. And then it is 24% for revolving, which has the largest electricity budget of the three. And so the price impact is most significant, right? What's happening on natural gas is an issue that Jerry and I have actually been talking about for about a year now, which is one that we under budgeted for natural gas for the pool across a couple of years. And then to sort of worsen that, we put most of the budget for that. Basically, we under budgeted for it. Let's put it this way. And what has been happening is revolving has been picking up the bill. So we under budgeted for it on the general fund side. That's why there's a 50% increase there. And they've been paying those bills out of revolving. So the general fund subsidy has actually been lower on an actuals basis. And so we're correcting that. We're putting the money back in where it's supposed to be in the general fund. And so that's why you're seeing a huge swing there. So those are costs we've been paying out of the revolving fund that are now going to get paid correctly out of the general funds. That's why there's a 50% increase. It's not as though we've added new usage. It's been there. It was there before. This is correcting a budget issue. And as for the substantial increase in revolving, again, we were under budgeting for it. But also where we're potentially seeing some increases, that budget, we shored up a little bit more. We're talking, I've talked about it a couple meetings, that there's some pass down costs that we're expecting to see here. Even though we have a fixed supply rate, the supplier is passing down costs. And so that's one budget that I put a little bit more into. Maybe because on both golf and revolving, because of those pass downs. So they are buying them all from the same place. To answer your question, these are corrections in the budget. This is where we believe it's going to need to be next year. It's not an increase in usage. It's actually just correcting the budget number. We under budgeted for it, and then we also have these increases coming in with our new contract. So I hope that wasn't too confusing and answered the question.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. I just have one final question before we move on to the golf course. And it was in the suggested questions. And sometimes it's a little confusing for me to know what's in the general fund and what for recreation and what's in the revolving fund. It seems to be very fluid between the two of them. And tell me if I'm right on this. I thought from reading the budget book that the general recreation fund is administration, the Evelyn Corain Aquatic Center, adult ed, and SUL. Is that correct or not?
No, adult ed is coming out of revolving.
So it's going to be, it's in revolving.
Right. And then administrative support for SUL is in operating. Jerry, is that correct?
Revolving.
Revolving. No, you and I always do that. Yep.
See what I mean? So it's what are the rules that put something in the general fund versus the revolving? I know what a revolving fund is, but it seems that it's a little bit fluid.
Sure. I think just anything program wise generally comes out of the revolving fund, and admin generally comes out of the operating budget. The pool side because the pool comes out of both budgets, the admin side of the pool comes out of operating, and the program side of pool comes out of revolving.
Okay, thank you. That helps. The budget that we looked at for 1,258,275 for the general fund and the revolving fund of $5,758,804. Those numbers are no override budget numbers.
Correct.
So are there other programs that would be changed if there were an override?
No.
Okay, thank you. Carlos, you have your hand up. I don't know if you have a question still.
No, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Oh, Justin, just in time. Um, if you could give us an update on the golf course, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Pleasure to be with all of you this evening, talking about the golf course and our FY27 budget. Tim, if you want to be my journeyman. I want to first introduce kind of 2025 in review. And I want to kind of deep dive into a lot of what we feel is the future for the golf course here. We've got some great pictures that are going to kind of illustrate some of these points I want to make. In 2025, even though in the spring we lost every single Saturday, we were only shut down for 12 days this year for flooding due to the golf course's inability to drain properly. So this was kind of a great year for us to see some great numbers and great participation rates at the golf course and so on, some great conditions. So we feel that that's kind of what the future is going to behold. As I mentioned, we featured 41,873 rounds of golf in 2025. This is our second year breaking 40,000 rounds. This is something that's really never been done pre-COVID and pre-my tenure. So really happy with the golf course's ability to operate in a drought. Coinciding with the rounds of golf, we saw 47,643 buckets of golf balls purchased last year, which was a little bit under what we did in 2024. And again, that's really just due to the weather. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, we lost almost every Saturday before Memorial Day. I think it was a record 13 Saturdays in a row that we had rain. And then realistically, this past fall, it got cold real fast, pretty much right after Veterans Day, where we typically see some lingering golfers, some of our more dedicated golfers, they like to hit balls all the way through December and sometimes even in January. And we just didn't get that this year. Friday nights at the golf course have become quite popular over the last couple of years. Last in 2025, we were able to feature 21 summer session concerts, and that's just live music that we invite performers to come and perform on the back porch Friday evenings, essentially the Friday before Memorial Day all the way to Indigenous Peoples Day. 5:30 to 7:30, great crowds this year, really enjoyed it and was very, very successful. Our Harvest Fest, it's our flagship community event that we do here in South Brookline with the Recreation Department joining forces with us at the golf course this year. We had perfect weather. We had just an incredible display of vendors from the local craftsmen and purveyors. We also were able to open Putterham Woods with the return of the trick-or-treat delight that the kids were able to go through and enjoy the beautiful woods that we're so lucky to renovate and rehabilitate. And then we had some bounce houses and some live music, and we estimated between 3,000 and 4,000 people came that day. So it was kind of a proof of concept over the last couple of years, and then just everything aligned to have an incredible day in October. As I mentioned before in Harvest Fest, Putterham Woods, it's a beautiful 15-acre urban forest, part of the golf course property, and it was a CIP project the last couple of fiscal years. And this past year, we were able to successfully, substantially complete a trail project that provided passive recreation trails. We have 3 different types of trails in the forest now. On the left-hand side, you can kind of see what that trail looked like before. On the right-hand side, it's kind of the after construction, where it's a great stone base, accessible trail that basically would take a person from the parking lot all the way out to Hammond Street, where kind of Laurel Street cross streets intersects with Hammond. There's also a little bit more of a traditional trail feature in the woods now, and then as well as an adventure trail. We're still working on finishing some of the finishing touches, as well as a CPA project that we'll touch on here in just a moment. Happy to report we're fully staffed. Staffing is a huge component of allowing us to execute a great golf experience, but also provide all these other ancillary benefits to the community. And pictured here is our newly named Director of Instruction, Duncan Smith, on the left. That's myself, looking a little bit slimmer and trimmer. And then Nick Kennis is to my right. He's our PGA assistant golf professional. And the gentleman on the right is the legend Michael Murphy, our golf course superintendent, who's our longest tenured employee here at the golf course. We have recently just completed our window restoration project in the dining room. This was a CPA project that we're awarded this year. It allowed us to take the original windows out of the dining room and have them fully restored to historical standards, and they came out absolutely exquisite. So the windows are on the left, and the gentleman's installing all the new hardware on the right. So I invite everybody to come over and inspect them when we reopen. As I mentioned before, we do still have a little bit more work to go on Putterham Woods. One of them is a CPA project that's focused on the trailheads. These are basically our entry points to the beautiful woods, and working with getting big belly trash cans, some more split rail fencing, a little bit better egress on the parking lot side, getting into the woods, some benches, a lot of signage that would go into the woods that would really create beautiful maps so folks can know where they're going. And then also a new concept is the connectedness that the woods provides to neighboring facilities as well. So we're excited to kind of see this project kind of come to life this spring. We've been planning this all throughout the year. And then probably our largest project that's been, at least in my tenure, my very first capital project, the golf course master plan, our landscape master plan, and executing the drainage portion of that plan. And I've put a picture here to kind of show you a bird's eye view of what it looks like before. This was taken November 14th. You can kind of see a little bit of excavation, kind of a little bit on the left center side of your screen. And as we go forward to the next screen, you're going to see what it looks like a little bit closer today. So as you can see, there's a lot more dark areas, and those are all areas that have been excavated. These were either existing creeks that were just full of silt and vegetation, or they were culverts that were basically creeks that were piped 60, 70, 80 years ago, and they've been daylighted. And so there's been an incredible increase in resource areas that we've been working with the Conservation Commission and our team. And essentially the concept is we know where the water likes to sit. So we're now creating corrals on the golf course, a little bit more in out of play areas that the water can migrate to when we do get inundated with rainfall. And so this project has really taken the entire system in totality and seen improvements across the entire system. We're extremely excited about it. The project is about $1.4 million in total, and we're looking to be substantially completed, hopefully right around Memorial Day. Right now, today we actually just reopened the golf course to golfers, but we're consolidating all of our play to the back nine only until we can get a little bit further along with the front nine. We anticipate opening the front nine hopefully in early May, and then just a couple little more subterranean drainage projects would be coming in the future years. But this is a transformational project for the property. Here's another little picture of what we're talking about, the culverts. You can see the excavator. The culverts are right there. This is a culvert removal part of the project, and its culverts were completely collapsed, and one of them was almost inverted in the completely opposite direction of what the water flow would allow. So we're excited for this. And then one of the things that we've been talking about with all of you for quite a few years is our cross-country program, our snow sports program. While 2025, we saw just a couple skiers. 2026, the year that we're in right now, it's been unbelievable. We saw almost 2,000 skiers in approximately 35 days due to the snow conditions that the winter provided. It was just magical. The snow that came down, as you all know, it stayed powdery, it stayed really dry. We didn't really get the big temperature swings, and just provided incredible ski conditions. We had people pulling off the parkway that were driving out to Weston and were like, oh my gosh, that's groomed trails. And they just pull right in. And then the best part, and you'll love this, is we kept it free for this year. So folks came in, as long as they had their own skis, they got to ski for free. And that was tremendously well received by folks from Brookline and surrounding communities. If folks didn't have skis, we actually had rental skis that got to see snow for the first time in 4 years. And those generated almost just a little over $12,000 in rental fees in just 35 days. So the proof of concept was proven, and we're set up for success in future years. Due to the construction, we only had trails on like one half of the golf course, so we're excited to open up the rest of the facility to it as well. So a little bit more information about the FY27 enterprise budget. Our budget for FY27 is going to be $3,600,250. That's an increase over FY26 of $565,791. And I'll touch a little bit more into that in a second. One of the things that's fueling the increase is our retained earnings balance, which entering this fiscal year, we've been able to increase that to just over $1 million. So a couple of the metrics that I wanted to kind of touch on, and obviously Charlie touched on some of the data that you guys got in your budget books, but I want to kind of put things together in a little bit different light. And as you can see, I've broken it down over the last 3 years. These are calendar years, and trying to understand the total number of participants that are coming to enjoy this beautiful property that we call home. So in 2025, we've determined that we've had a total participants of about 94,000 folks that came through our golf course. In 2024, it was a little bit under at 92,000. And in 2023, it was down to 80,000. And as you can see, I've kind of categorized these categories as rounds. Our buckets of balls is our driving range business. And then community events. It's a growing part of what we do, and it's very, very important, as well as snow sports. And one of the big factors that determine our success, it's days closed. How many days can we actually operate? In 2023, I think it rained every other day. It was just never stopped, and it truly impacted our golf course in ways I've never ever imagined and never want to see again. But that impacted our community events, it impacted our rounds of golf, and you can kind of really see what I see as the future for our golf course moving forward. So to kind of highlight some of the changes to FY27, in personnel, we're working with Human Resources and the Select Board's office to look at changing one of our full-time positions from a GN7 to a GN10. We're also increasing the part-time seasonal staff. Just the increase in labor rates over the last couple of years, we haven't really accounted for that. We've just been absorbing those costs, and that's about an increase of $44,000, almost $45,000. So the total change in personnel is closer to $70,000 in total. In services, we're looking to create some climate controlled areas for our ground staff. These are the folks that work out in the elements and have no point of refuge for warm weather or cold weather. So we're looking to create some climate controlled areas for them, as well as installing some walk-in refrigeration abilities in our basement in the clubhouse. So the total change in services is actually only $3,300, but the building and repair was a substantial increase. Supplies, recreation supplies. We actually started a project last summer of providing some netting protection to our neighbors, the Municipal Service Center. Our talented golfers do sometimes hit golf balls over there. And we want to provide a better level of protection. So the last part of that project is to install nets. So that's a $75,000 cost that the enterprise fund will be paying for. In totality, the change in supplies is $82,000. Capital, our operating capital budget this year is increasing by $350,000. This year, our operation capital will be focused on cart path work. We do hope to resequence the golf course as part of our landscape master plan, and that's simply just changing the order in which the golfers would play the golf course. So renumbering the holes, which will be a significant improvement to the golfer's experience. We're also allowing a $100,000 drainage contingency for the current project, as we kind of have run into some surprises under the ground and some opportunities to make enhancements while a contractor is on site, as well as a project to illuminate the driving range. We're also seeing some increased debt service as a result of the outstanding bond authorizations that we've enacted to financially provide for this drainage project that we're currently in. And that would wrap up my presentation, and I'll pass it back to Tim, and happy to answer any questions that the committee has. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Harry, what you're on?
I have two questions. One, Justin, is on drainage. This committee does all the public parks through our oversight of DPW. And it seems that whenever we redo a public park or a playground, there's a budget item for drainage. And in your budget, there's a amount set aside for drainage. Now, I understand that most of Brookline appears to be built on a swamp, at least given the amount we spend on drainage. But is drainage not a one and done? Because it would seem to me that we've done enough of these projects that the drainage portion of it should have disappeared several rehabs prior. Does it keep popping up, or does it matter upon the exact ground, the acreage we're doing?
So it's a loaded question, Mr. Friedman. If I could be blunt, it's a matter of how thorough of a project in drainage do you do. Previously at the golf course, I would say the projects that were undertaken, namely in 2013, 2015, were more of a maintenance drainage project where they really kind of took the infrastructure that was in place and simply cleaned it out, right? We didn't really kind of bring in new infrastructure. What we're doing now is we've put the entire golf course, the entire property, into a computer and ran hydrology models and combined that with new infrastructure designs of how to better handle these inundation events. I can't really speak to what our colleagues at Parks and Open Space does with their parks plannings, but I do know that if you can invest in what's underground, the stuff that's above ground will be longer lasting, it will remain in better shape, and it will be available more. So that's kind of what our philosophy has been, is fix what's underground first, and then we'll get to the stuff that's above ground. I hope that gives you some context and answers your question.
It does. Thank you. My second question regards the lighting of the driving range. In the CIP budget, there's an item for driving range lighting for, I believe, 300,000, which was not mentioned when CIP items were mentioned, but in your operating capital, you mentioned the driving range. Where is the driving range money? Is it CIP or is it the operating capital?
So the driving range money is actually being paid for through a retained earnings transfer. So it will be paid for out of the operating budget as a reserve fund transfer.
It's in the CIP, Harry, just to be perfectly clear.
Well, now it's not
It
perfectly
is.
clear.
It's in the CIP. Justin muddied it a little bit when he said it's being paid by operating. He said retained earnings. That's the equivalent of free cash in the golf fund. So it's
Okay.
in the CIP. It's being paid out of golf's free cash, which is known as retained earnings. So it's in the CIP.
So when we go to discuss this issue, it's when we discuss the CIP budget, which which the department has two items. One is the filtration at the Crane pool, and the other one is this 300 grand.
Exactly.
Okay, thank
And
you.
is the CIP, is Rec CIP noticed for tonight? You're talking about it tonight?
It would be we wanted to talk about it tonight, but not vote on it tonight.
Got it.
Okay, because but Michael, at what point do you wish to talk about it?
The CIP?
Yeah,
I would think we still have, I think, questions about the operating budget for the Golf Enterprise Fund. And once we
Okay.
finish that, then we can talk about the individual items.
then I am all set for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. So again, sometimes I'm getting confused between recreation and golf and revolving and operating. So if I take a look at the golf description in the budget book, it doesn't mention lighting. But if I take a look at the recreation revolving fund, it mentions in terms of facility improvement, propose or construct lighting for the driving range. So I'm not sure who's driving the driving range lighting.
So Justin's accounts would drive that piece of it because it's related to the golf course.
So that should be in the golf course piece, right?
Right.
Not, okay.
Yeah.
And
Part
the
of our
reason,
department, probably how it got muddied with where we put it, so.
right, okay. So I want to be clear on that. So there's been, I have a question about the process for the improvement. Will that also have a design review procedure that involves neighbors or not?
We've pretty much almost completed the public process with the neighbors. We've had several meetings. We did those in the fall. And honestly, based on the feedback that we got from those meetings, we've been at work discussing and learning more from the different experts that were able to ascertain to kind of learn more about the effects of the lighting and the neighborhood's feedback and reservations about it. So we still haven't gone yet back to Park and Rec Commission. That's something that we're hoping to do soon and complete that public process.
Now, for the parks, the way the parks are renovated, even if they're not associated with a neighborhood, but a facility, there's a design review process that has a very, detailed procedure on how that should happen to ensure transparency. And this sounds like a slightly different process. And I'm just wondering, I don't know how those meetings turned out from the fall. I attended a couple of them. I know that there's general concern about lighting in the general area. And I had raised a question in the fall around wildlife and essentially dark skies, the concerns about the effects on wildlife and what wildlife is there. And so if that's part of the if that's part of the deliberation, I'd like to know where you ended up on that.
Yeah, so that is one of the biggest things that we heard. So since then, we've relooked at the design of the lights itself. So that's something we're working on with Musco, to talk about the lighting company Musco, to talk about the actual lighting impacts. We've been speaking with colleagues at Mass Audubon Society, as well as our internal conservation agent. We've been talking to Dark Skies Massachusetts, as well as other individuals that have raised their hand and popped up for us to have conversations with. So that's why, as Justin mentioned, we started this in the fall, but we're not rushing to get it back. We want to make sure that we're taking everything into account. So we are looking at that piece of it very closely. We are adjusting what we can based on that. And so, as Justin mentioned, hopefully we'll be back in the next month or two to report back to the commission and go from there. So we are taking everybody's concerns, especially that with wildlife, very much in check.
Terrific. And again, the question of whether or not this particular project is subject to the design review process for parks would be something that I would like the Park and Rec Commission to weigh in on.
Sure. I
And
can report back on that. Yep.
okay, thank you. Carlos.
Thank you, Michael. Two items. One of the things, I think what Harry was asking was, is this part of the 6% or 6.5% capital projects? And it's not, right? Charlie?
Correct. It's coming out of recreation funds. Yep. It's coming out of golf enterprise funds.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Justin, thank you to you and your team for transforming the golf course the way you're doing that. I think it's a great improvement over the years. I had just one question, which is really small. As you know, there's a convenience charge that is charged for credit cards at the shop, and when you use a sort of a credit card to pay for fees and stuff like that. Yet, this is different from when the town charges convenience fees for utilities. Because I think in your case, it's more the same rules that applies to retail shops in Massachusetts. And that convenience fee is not something that is allowed in retail shops. So I just want to make sure that we don't get in trouble with that with the AG's office if someone complains. And I also think that it would be it would be well received by your clients, the users, if that convenience fee went away, even if it's just the 3% of the 4%, because I think from what I've heard from many people, it feels a little bit like a nickel and diming kind of situation, and that's never a positive thing. So that's just maybe we can get some feedback from you or Charlie about that. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Just for clarity, there's a directive from the town for basically any credit card fees that are, items or services or things of that nature, that there's a credit card service fee charged. Our system, where we direct 95% of our customers who are paying for golf book online. And that online booking system does not actually allow us to charge a credit card service fee. The only credit card service fees that are charged are for when people go and they pay directly at the counter of the golf shop with a credit card. If they pay with cash, there is no service fee. If they pay with a credit card at the driving range machine, there is no credit card service fee. So it's limited in its reach. And it's really, we're doing the best we can, Carlos. So if you're able to book a round of golf through our website, as we instruct everybody to do, there is no credit card service fee. We're actually we're absorbing those fees that are charged to us.
Thank you. I would check with the town council because, again, as a retail operation, it's very clear in the Massachusetts laws that no convenience fees can be charged. So, you know, it's different when, if the directive is from the town, I think the town needs to evaluate in what situation that directive applies and which one it doesn't. Because we're going to end up getting in trouble with this. I know that there's some businesses, for example, on the Cape that have started charging fees, convenience fees, and the AG's office went hard on them because, as I said, the law doesn't allow for that. So I think it would be prudent to check with the legal department.
I just made the note. So Justin and Charlie, if you want to connect after this, we can talk about that.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Carlos. Any more?
No, that's all. I look forward to being on the course sometime soon.
Great. I'd like to echo Carlos's observation about the golf course and its improvements and the work, Justin, that you and your team have done. It's really terrific. The only thing that I think I'm sad about is I didn't get to go to dinner at the clubhouse this winter. And I'm wondering what the status is of the restaurant there. Will that be reopened? Do we still have an agreement with the current restaurateur?
Yes, we do. So the Hemlock Grill will actually reopen for business on Wednesday, April 1st. We decided in conjunction with them that due to the windows being removed out of the dining room and some other construction opportunities that we lined up in that same time that the windows were out, that it probably would be not very desirable to have dining experiences in that space. And as well as, you know, with the previous winters having no or limited snow, the amount of people, foot traffic wasn't really supportive of business operations there. There's also some, you know, alcohol serving limitations during the off season. So this year we decided to shut it down and reopen in the spring when it was the right time.
Well, are you planning to keep it open in the fall and winter of 26, 27?
Hopefully, still remains to be seen, but at this point, I can't really comment yet on that, but we would definitely publicize that if we're open next winter.
Okay. Just one question going back to Elliott. So Tim, this is for you. In the CIP, there's, I believe it was $600,000 dollars or 800. Please correct me.
800.
800, right? And we voted that was essentially allocated last year, but it wasn't actually spent. I understand. So it's still sitting there.
Technically, yes, the money's still sitting there. We're in the process of getting that ball rolling to spend it right now.
I thought there was a question. It was unclear whether or not the rec administration staff would move up to the other location, Fisher Hill, or not. So where are we on that? Is that cleared up finally?
So it's still a huge unknown, as we've been saying, of future use for Fisher Hill. So we wanted to preserve the building for, if it's us, we can move in here. If it's a different department, but either way, the classroom piece of it would be retained by our department. So upgrades there would need to be done.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's see. We have a number of items before us that we could take a vote on. Do we have a question, Charlie?
Thanks, Michael. I just wanted to get back to Harry's question that he asked way back at the beginning of the meeting about Brookline Adult Education's gift or endowment that they received. So, Harry, I did some research and I believe I have the answer on this. So they did have a gift revolving fund for Brookline Adult Education. It was actually, I think it was for gifts and for any other fees or any other revenues they took in. We did receive sort of an update on that at the end of last fiscal year when the schools were attempting to close their budget gap that they had in last fiscal year. One of the things that they did to close that gap was absorb as much of their revolving and special funds as they possibly can. I could be wrong about this, but I'm looking at the account right now and it looks to me like it has nothing left in it. So I believe it was fully expended as, as part of the closing of the gap and as part of closing out schools having ownership of a Brookline Adult Ed. So there were no funds, as far as I'm aware, moved over to recreation on the town side with adult education. So that's just to try, hopefully close the loop on that.
So let me just see if I understand you. I believe that there were no funds left. What I'm a little uncertain on is whether the schools, in closing their non-base gap, used base funds, which, if nothing else, if that did happen, smells, to put it mildly.
Well, I can't confirm one way or another on that, Harry. What I do know is that they were looking at a huge gap. We asked them for a list of their balances and all of their special revenue funds and asked them to look at whether they could absorb any costs there or move money around, in other words, pay anything that they were paying out of their normal budget that was adult ed related and put it on the revolving fund, right? We asked them to do that exercise to the extent that they could. I do see there were some expenses at the beginning of this fiscal year, so clearly they didn't completely drain the fund in closing their gap. They had some costs at the beginning of this fiscal year. So I can't say for sure one way or another as to what you're suggesting. I just know that it has been closed out and no funds moved over to the town side. That was what I was hoping to give you the answer on.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do now is, since we still have a quorum, is to take a vote on the operating budgets, the CIP budgets. I believe, Carol, that we're going to postpone a vote on those. But do I hear a motion for $1,258,275 for the general operating fund for the recreation?
Michael, I have to go deal with my car. You have my vote, yes.
Good luck.
Triple A's here. Sorry about that.
That's all right. So I have a
So moved.
so moved. Do I hear a
So moved.
second?
Yes.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, I'll take it. Harry,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Carlos.
Yes.
Okay, and Carol. So that is agreed
And,
to.
and we need your vote, Michael.
Oh, I just wrote it down. I was a silent vote, but I vote also yes. That will be in the minutes. Thank you.
Michael, can I just ask you one thing that I don't know how to, I would like very much to have an answer to the question that Harry asked at our next meeting about how those funds were transferred and to understand why it didn't come to the advisory committee when these transfers are made. Are they just allowed or do they have to come to someone for a permission?
Okay,
So
Sure.
just to be answered, I mean, I'd like you to write to ask that be answered for our next meeting.
okay,
Thank you.
great. Charlie, is that something you can?
Yeah, I've already asked Melissa if she can help me clarify the history there. So I'll make a note to get back to Harry. And
Yeah,
he can report out.
You might contact Arthur Conquest, who was involved for many years with this.
Well, I think the answer, I believe we have the answer. And just to clarify, I believe the schools are the custodians of those funds. I don't know that that it requires approval to transfer. The town, for example, votes a lump sum line item for the school's budget. So, I don't think they needed to get approval for that. But I will get the answer to the question that Harry asked, which was any of that funding needed to close the gap outside of adult ed? And that's what I'll look for an answer on.
Right,
The other-
that would be good, Charlie, because it's not, if some of the base money was used to close the school gap, and it wasn't quite what we might have anticipated, it's not the rec department's budget I'm concerned about. It's the school's budget.
I
I'm
understand. I
concerned
understand,
about.
but the point that I made, which is that we asked them to look at all of their funds and to look at any costs they had on their operating budget that would be associated with those funds and to charge them to those funds. We asked them to do that to avoid ending the year in a multi-million-dollar deficit, right? So that was part of their effort to close their gap. And I don't mean to cast aspersions here or make anyone suspicious of what happened there. That was a fully publicly transparent process. The schools appeared before, I believe, both select board and advisory to discuss how they were going to do that. So, but I will get
Actually,
the answer.
Charlie, nothing that involved the schools appearing before advisory was fully transparent.
Understandable, but I'm talking about this particular question, right?
I
Which was how they were going to close their
understand.
gap.
Charlie, the
Um,
only question I would like answered is, when we transferred the responsibility to the rec department, why didn't we transfer the funds that were meant to be used for adult ed? That's my only question.
Right, because there were none left, because the fund had.
But that's because they transferred them otherwise. So why didn't we do it the other way? And I know you need it. I got that picture, but I just wanted to know what was the logic between allowing the schools to pick it up versus transferring it over to the rec to fund the adult?
But again, I think that the money had been expended. I think that if you look back at the history, right, and Tim can chime in on this, the schools gave this function to rec because it was going to be underwater at some point anyway.
No doubt. Yeah, I just like to
Right.
know that.
So I think that's, I don't know that we need to get into the idea that like they drained the money and then handed over the function. I actually think it was running out of money and that was why they needed help. So, so again, I will get the answer. I will get the answer to Harry's question.
Thank you.
Was any of this money used for something other than adult ed? Happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to propose a motion for the Golf Course Enterprise Fund for $3,600,250.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Carlos. Carlos, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Pam,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Carol with a yay. Aye, yay, yay. Okay, and I vote yes as well. So that's 4 to nothing. And the other budget we're going to be voting on tonight is the Recreation Revolving Fund for $5,758,804.
So moved.
Second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Carlos, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Pam,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So I believe that's it for our.
One more for golf, right?
For golf.
No, we did that.
Oh,
did
okay,
that.
we did. Okay,
I
thanks.
just reversed
I
it.
only got one shot, and it wasn't a mulligan, so.
Thank you, Tim.
We're going to be voting on the CIP as part of a whole thing. But before we leave, I want to ask if there's any other questions about the CIP items that we can discuss today.
It's just 2 items. I don't think there are any questions on the Karain filtration system. My questions were really the same issues that you raised, Michael, which is community support, the dark lighting certification, and the environmental effect on wildlife and animals.
Okay.
Michael, I had a question. When we reviewed the water and sewer CIP, did we vote on those because they were part of the revolving fund?
believe
So I
we
thought we
did.
did.
We did, yes.
No,
Not the CIP portion, no.
no, we just voted on the water and sewer operating budget.
Operating budget only.
Okay. I guess in the future, it doesn't make, I mean, it makes sense to vote on all the CIP that are from the CIP budget together, but I don't know if it makes sense to not vote on, water and sewer and other revolving funds or enterprises, since they're completely separated from the general CIP account. Just say.
Okay, that's something to think about. Some merit to that for sure. So I want to thank Justin and Tim and Jerry for your help on understanding this, and Charlie, of course. And I wonder if Justin and Tim, you could send your presentations to
Absolutely.
me and to Carol,
Sure.
and we'll do the write-up based upon that.
Got it.
Right. So thank you again. Thank you all.
Great. Thanks so much. Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for running the meeting. Are we done too?
We are done.
Good night.
Good night.